And we are really rolling and rolling today.
So,
Okay. Oh, we are on. Oh, okay. All right. I will call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for May 16th, 2024. It is 10:17. We got a little bit of a late start today, so I apologize for that. Commissioner Johnston, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, anything to add to the calendar session, before the calendar session
No, next week,
for next week? Yeah.
Yeah. butterfly tour.
Oh, the tour. Was that on there?
It'll be on the 29th, 10 a.m. Butterfly tour, blue fender butterfly.
Is everyone planning to go?
I
No,
think
the kid
that's
is.
the week after. When
28.
is it?
Did you say it was Wednesday, the 29th?
Yep, 10 a.m.
Right.
Yeah, we only need to notice it if the majority or if all the board's going, so.
Okay.
Is all the board intending to go, then we need to add it to the joint calendar.
I'm going.
I don't know yet, so let's just add it in case.
Okay, can do,
Okay.
29. Yep. It's the Habitat Conservation Plan.
For Wednesday. What time?
10 a.m.
10. Okay, anything else for the good of, or the good of the order, for the calendar? All right, item D is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, a quasi judicial land use matter, or a topic scheduled for a public hearing. I want to acknowledge that we did receive, I think, one written comment. And so commissioners have seen that, but if you are in the audience and would like to provide public comment, or if you're online, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, seeing and hearing none, we will move on to item E, department updates. There's nothing today. There's nothing for our work session, nothing for consent agenda, nothing under old business. Item I, other business, is discussion and consideration of approval of proposal from Campfire Columbia for summer enrichment program in McMinnville in the amount of $291,443.89 for the summer of 2024 and summer of 2025. And we are joined today by our Economic Development Director, Joya Goodrum. Welcome, Joya. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thanks for giving me time today. Back in April, you may recall, I presented information regarding the need in McMinnville School District for before and after school care. McMinnville School District has been partnering with Kids on the Block program since the late 1980s. And KOB is now partnering with Campfire Columbia to provide those services. KOB is nearly out of funding, and there is no intention to seek further fundraising by KOB. Campfire Columbia is seeking funding assistance for the summer enrichment program. We have invited Joshua Todd and Adriel Person to be here today to talk about the program and the need. And I will turn the presentation over to them. And I believe we've got a slideshow that they're going to walk us through. Yes, you have copies of it,
Okay.
is in the packet, and we can bring it up on the screen as well so that they can kind of walk you through it if you'd like. Yeah, okay, very good. I'll go sit over there and let me.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
Chair Bershauer, Commissioners, thank you for the invitation. My name is Joshua Todd. I'm the President and CEO of Campfire Columbia.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm Adriel Person. I'm the Director of the Before and After School Care Programs.
Campfire Columbia has been partnering in Yamhill County in all of the elementary schools in McMinnville and Lafayette. Starting in 2021, we provide after-school care. We've been excited to move into this community and to partner with KOB Inc. We are coming forward today to ask for support for summer programming, which is not part of our partnership with KOB. KOB supports school year programming. And we have been building up our capacity to do fundraising through Campfire Columbia's 501c3 to kind of transition away from KOB Inc. money. But the summer is a critical time for young people and for stemming kind of learning loss. And it's one that has been supported at the state legislature in 2021 and 2022, but there is not funding for 24 and 25. So just a little bit about us. If we can go on to the next slide, I'll just give you a quick overview of our service. This year, we currently have 177 students enrolled. We put a strong focus on serving families that are most in need. And so we prioritize registration for our after-school programs for low-income families, for BIPOC families, families who are engaged in the foster care system, as well as single-parent households and caregivers that have disabilities. We have provided through Campfire scholarships this year to about 18% of our enrolled families. It's about 30. And then we also, as a licensed childcare provider with the state of Oregon, we're able to access federal funds called employment-related daycare. So those are for very low-income families who are working or go to school. We have another 25% of our families who receive those discounts. And that support is actually really significant. ERDC families on average in Yamhill County with Campfire are only paying about $4 a month for their care. Total support this year, it was just over $340,000 that we have helped kind of defray the cost for families. On the next slide, you can kind of see our overall impact since, well, this is actually by school. You can see our largest enrollment for families that are being scholarshiped is at Buell. 55% of all families at that school receive some form of scholarship. And even at our lowest enrolled school for scholarships, it's still 22% of families, which is pretty significant. And then you can see the average cost if they're receiving support from Campfire through our collective care, which is also funded in part by KOB. Their average cost is about $143 a month. And if they're on ERDC, it's about $4 a month. Next slide. So since we've moved into Yamhill County over the last 3 years, we've served 500 young people. Some of that is duplicated because they come back year after year. 36% have received scholarships through Campfire, another 14 through ERDC. That number has been increasing over the 3 years. And so now over the last 3 years, about 50% of families are receiving some form of scholarship. In total, over the last 3 years, that support back to families in Yamhill County has equaled about $687,000, 319 of that coming from KOB, and then 40,000 coming from the city of McMinnville. Go to the next slide.
I think one point that I want to highlight is that duplicate number is because we offer rollover enrollment to families. So once they're in, unless they choose not to seek our services. So I wanted to make sure that I put that on out there. The summer learning gap is a huge opportunity. I think we all know that. Because KOB does not provide funding or allow us to use the funding for that, we are in need of figuring out ways to support students over the summer. We know that cost is an issue, and so our enrollment tends to be lower in summer because it's mostly families who can afford to put their child in care. And so this funding that we're seeking today will allow us to offer it unilaterally to families that are low income and or unable for whatever reasons to put their children in care. The average cost is about $350 per week. And we do allow families with ERDC to enroll in care and work with them based on their hours. Next slide.
Excuse me, before you move
Yeah.
on. So those federal subsidies, the ERDC can be used, but it's difficult to navigate that for summer?
It is because each month, we're only able to bill a certain number of hours. And so if a family is on ERDC and they run out of hours, then the coverage stops at whatever that hour might be. And so if they're at 200 or 150 hours, we run full day care in the summer. So it's from 8 to 5. And so that's 40 hours a week for however many weeks in the month. So for instance, in June, there'll be 1 week of care, but families had after school care up until the summer break. And so then you have to account for the number of hours that were already used and then the new number of hours for summer care. So it gets a little bit tricky when you're trying to reconcile with the state because they don't pay overage.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Yes.
So they're running out of hours essentially by week 1 or 2 of summer?
Potentially.
Okay.
So the summer enrichment budget will account for 6 weeks of summer care from 8 to 5. It allow us to double. Our current enrollment is right around 30 families per week. That will allow us to bump all the way up to 60, and that will allow us to scholarship families that are unable to pay. The total cost for this year was about $189,000. For next summer, it's slightly higher because we will be accounting for inflation and other charges with regards to supplies and things that we'll need to purchase. Our total earned for this year is about $50,000 from families enrolling that are able to pay. And the total investment that we're seeking, as you stated earlier, is $294,444.
So when you talk about the 60 youth, are they in one location?
We provide care in one location. So we collapse all of our summer programming to just one central location in the summer, which will be Newby Elementary School this year.
So what about transportation challenges for families?
In the past and during the year, I'd say we have a partnership with McMinnville that allows transportation. To be honest, I haven't heard of any significant challenges. Once families know where the location is, they generally just drop them off and pick them up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
And you said it would be at Newbie this year?
it will.
Okay.
So the benefits to families are that there's a full day, all day opportunity for care. So for families who are working, they have the opportunity to have a safe environment for their kids. We have packages from 3 days to 5 days per week. So for families who don't need every day, all day, there is a menu of options for them. It's bilingual staff. We offer bilingual staff and programming. Our registrar speaks Spanish. Our programming aides and employees and our district manager also speak Spanish. So there is opportunity to meet everyone where they are and have robust conversations and answer questions for anyone that is seeking me. We can progress.
The other piece that we wanted to highlight, because I think it is unique to Campfire, I think many of you know, childcare is one of the lowest paying professions in our state, and Oregon is one of the most expensive states for childcare. So when you see the number that we're requesting, it does seem quite large. I also want to state, though, that part of that is because we try to, as much as we are able to, really support our staff. And so the jobs that we're providing in Yamhill County are really solid jobs. Even our lowest paid childcare workers, who are generally high school students, our aides, they can't be alone with children because of state licensing. They're still making $16.80 an hour. If they speak Spanish, they're making $17.80 an hour. We provide full healthcare benefits to our staff starting at 20 hours a week. We also provide a small retirement investment so that people can start building generational wealth. We're really trying to make these good paying jobs that can become careers for folks who are passionate about supporting children. And so when you look at that cost, I like to think of this as kind of 2 for 1, because we're supporting the needs of families who need to get to work, but we're also providing economic development for the folks who are able to find a good paying job. And actually many of our staff are former KOB kids who have grown up and stayed in the community and now are able to kind of give back, which I think is really important.
Are you having staffing problems?
You know, I think across the entire childcare sector, staffing is difficult. We provide before and after school care in 20 schools across 3 districts. I will say McMinnville has actually been the easiest community for us to hire in. And I think part of that is because there are fewer competitive wage jobs that we're competing with. So, you know, when we're recruiting in Portland, people can go work at Target and make more than they make working with kids, which is that's just wild to me. But so we still have challenges in McMinnville, but this is an easier market for us to recruit in.
Thank you.
Yeah. We also really believe in being part of the community. And so all of our staff also receive 24 hours of paid volunteer time so they can give back to organizations that they care about in their community, which we think is important. And then finally, the last slide is just kind of the benefits to the young people. Campfire programming is built around what we call a young person's spark. It's that thing that gets them excited, that makes them want to engage in school, in life. We build every program around the kids that are there. And so every year looks a little bit different. Every school looks a little bit different. These are pictures from Grand Haven Elementary. They had a published authors club. And so the students were able to write a storybook. They were able to illustrate it. And then our staff worked with an online publishing company that actually published the book, put it into hard copy that families were able to purchase. And we also purchased copies for families who couldn't afford it that could stay in the school library so that kids could see themselves as an author and think about a career in writing and journalism. And that was a big success that the kids enjoyed. And every school does something slightly different based on the kids in front of them and what they're excited about. And I think that is our last slide, and we're open to questions that you all may have.
Great, thank you. So is lunch provided in this program?
Yes, lunch and 2 snacks
Lunch.
during the summer.
Okay. And then you said typically the enrollment sort of drops down for summer, likely because of cost, but there's some other factors too. So are you just going to notify current families that there are scholarships available and go from there? And what's your expectation on that?
Yeah, so we have direct communication with all of our families. We also have monthly meetings with each of the building administrators and staff. And so we would immediately, if there was an approval, let schools know that we have slots available. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing families that have the greatest need, where this is going to allow them to go to work, to be able to maintain housing, those sorts of things. But we would notify our families and our schools that we had 30 additional slots that we could then allocate for low cost. We probably would still ask families to give something. We think it's important for them to participate, but we would be able to make that a sliding scale down to very, very low fee.
Okay.
So is the model more like a school setting? And then is there any component of day camp or a camp because it's in the summertime so that it's not all just books?
So the model is enrichment sort of across the board in the summer with sprinkling of academic enrichment as well. So we have a full library at each of our sites where students are able to do any number of academically charged activities. We also allow for weather-based activities. So we might go outside and have a water play day, or we may have a walking field trip. We have opportunities to take students to our Camp Numanu. And so we have lots of different ways to weave in science and STEM and enrichment so that it doesn't feel like school for the next 5 weeks.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so if somebody's paying the full fare, roughly, it's about $1,500 a month for this.
Yeah.
For 4 weeks. Okay, so significant. I don't think I have any further questions. Kate, do you have any, Commissioner?
No, I think you guys covered most of it.
Okay.
Just in terms of going forward, we always talk about, this is a Band-Aid, and yet you did talk about, you know, some kind of plan going forward. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So we've been reaching out and talking with folks who had been previously involved in the Mayor's Ball, which was a fundraiser that existed here that supported KOB Inc. KOB Inc. as an organization is not interested in taking that event back on. But Campfire does galas and fundraisers, and that's how we support our collective care funds at Scholarship Families. We don't have any fundraiser that is specific to McMinnville. And I don't think it's really fair to ask McMinnville people to travel to our gala in Portland. And so we're working with those volunteers who had previously run fundraising in McMinnville to say, you don't have to do the fundraising, but, you know, connect us with people, you know, invite us out so that we can start talking with the folks who had been giving, and we're supporting that effort. And we're looking at bringing on fundraising that's run through Campfire, but in support of the after-school program only here. So it'd be targeted, restricted dollars to McMinnville.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. I think that's all of our questions. I do have one for Joya though. So thank you
Great.
very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Joya, when we first started talking about this, we were talking about how KOB or Campfire, they had 1 year left of after-school funding. And so this money could potentially could be used to help them figure out a plan long-term. So am I understanding this correctly, where this would be, if this particular ask was granted, it would get us through this summer, which is not funded with KOB dollars. And then come fall of 2024, KOB remaining funds could be used to help supplement the after-school program.
Correct. And then the second
And then
balance of the money, the 202,000 would cover 2025 summer.
from this proposal,
Correct.
right? okay.
Yes, yes.
So we're really looking at, you know, roughly a year of extension.
Correct.
And
So
then,
yes, it would get them to 2025. Right, summer 25. It'll get them to
Okay.
fall of 25.
okay. I mean, I suppose I still have the concern of the school year, right? Because parents are, you know, the latchkey kids don't just stop becoming latchkey kids after the summer. So, that's still a concern of mine in terms of the funding, but I do like the fact that this is more specific and targeted to summer care. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that there's still a significant need going into the fall of 2025.
KO, excuse me, I'm sorry. KOB has about $248,000 left, which if I understood correctly, and I'll defer to Joshua and Adriel, that it would cover the next school year through the fall and into the spring. Is that correct? Please come up, please.
So, but Joya, you can also maybe fill in some of the blanks in terms of some of the state money that we're seeing, additional money, childcare investments and new programs and reinfusing some of the older programs. Is that going to help in any way?
I don't know the answer to that question. My apologies.
So two pieces. In our next fiscal year budget, which starts July 1, we have a $100,000 commitment from KOB Inc. for this coming school year. That would leave $148,000 for the school year of 2025.
25.
So we
Okay.
have kind of a 2-year plan,
Okay.
and then we're building up our fundraising infrastructure to be able to backfill those dollars with community support. When you ask the question about state funding, there was state funding for summer learning passed by the legislature in the short session. Unfortunately, the McMinnville School District was waitlisted for those funds. I don't know the status if they actually received any. So those funds do not support Campfire. None of the districts that we work in, Westland, Wilsonville, McMinnville, or Portland, were funded by the legislature. A lot of the other childcare funding that's coming through is specifically around early childhood, so not school age youth, or it's construction of new sites, new centers. There is, in the short session, there was very little, other than an extension of ERDC, which will support us. There was very little direct funding to childcare providers who do school age care.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner, I think you were talking about the 50 million that the legislature has set aside. So 25 million in 2024, and we should be hearing about that coming up very soon. And then the next 25 million will be coming out in 2025.
So we don't know if it's necessarily going to be early childcare.
It's infrastructure,
Oh,
pretty
it's
much. It's
infrastructure.
only for infrastructure. So building and creating new, buying furniture, those kinds of things.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So if we are to consider this grant today, it would still leave roughly $200,000 in our childcare ARPA bucket of money that we set aside. Am I correct?
After this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I am going to propose that we do grant this proposal. I would move approval of I-1. And the reason is because I think in the beginning, we started discussing this with the intention of providing immediate care or assistance for immediate care in one of our largest school districts. And giving and providing them some time to figure out a long-term plan. Because if this were to just go away, it's, these are, as you saw, 170 some families, low-income families that would be impacted. I think that this is an even better proposal when you look at the impact, since KOB is able to provide the supplement for the after-school care for at least the next 2 years, next 2 school years. And then to have a supplement where these families can have continuity through the summer, I think is a really significant deal. I know just, as a single parent myself, in the summer, it was very challenging to find affordable daycare for my son, as parents don't get the summers off. So I think this provides a really sort of big bang for our buck. We've already invested money into expansion of programs, not necessarily supplement for families, but expansion of programs. We've invested into, potentially new facilities. And I think that this is it sort of rounds out the goal, which was to have the biggest impact that we possibly can as fast as we can. So thoughts?
Yes, as we've looked at all these different proposals over the last couple of years, what has stood out to me is the need. And obviously, when you have big ticket items that basically mean that you're going to be building something, infrastructure, buildings, and that will take years and many millions of dollars. I've always looked at the programs that I think will get the most bang for our buck, and those are the ones that have a track record, have been successful, are known in the community, and like we saw with Northwest Christian and their after-school program, The Zone, and anything that's up and running that we don't have to start from ground zero. It's not a startup. And to me, we do it with our economic development grants, that if you've got something that has somewhat, some legs to it, that to me is the most benefit. I would love to see this continue, because then you have to, if this goes away, you have to build a whole new program and start from scratch. To me, this makes a lot of sense, and we do have money left over for additional investments. And I really appreciate the whole campfire model. So thank you.
Great. Commissioner, any further thoughts?
For the George Fox program, I really appreciate the longevity of that, right?
Mhm.
The monies that's going to that is really building a very good foundation for the future of childcare and education into the childcare industry. So I've always given that a lot of weight. And I appreciate the instant gratification programs that we already allocated to. Those are great programs. Um, I don't know what the appetite is, but, and I hate putting Band-Aids on things, but what if we just did one summer for this program, which would be it looks like to me, if I'm reading it right, it's 189,000 for just one summer. And then it's estimated at 202 for 2025. So I don't know what the appetite is for just doing one summer, 189,000. And the only reason I would even propose that is because there is monies potentially ear tagged for infrastructure, which could fit right into the George Fox program from the state. So I don't know what the appetite is there.
I think that we have $500,000 has gone to George Fox. So that project has been supported. And as we've learned, there's supposedly some substantial support for that in the community in terms of continuation of donors. So I feel confident that if that project is going to move forward, there's going to be a lot of buy-in. I think $500,000 from the county's ARPA is a significant, and it makes a statement, and I think it's helpful on a $12 million project, but nevertheless, I don't think it was incumbent upon us to fund the whole thing.
Sure.
I think there is money left over, and we did have a discussion about going forward. There could be a further and future allocation to George Fox. And I think that, again, that money that's left over could answer some of what you're saying in terms of giving some of that money there. But I do think there's wisdom in giving this a little more stability over the next couple of summers.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear that Campfire is working with KOB to potentially set up a new fundraiser or, something similar. Recognizing, because I'm sure you've been learning too, that, the history of KOB and the loss of that program, or the fundraising for that program. So that's hard to do in a year. That's a heavy lift for a year. So I do like how this proposal would give a bit more time to do that. And frankly, I look forward to being a part of helping you do that, because I think that this community will come in around you, knowing that there's an avenue for it. Okay, so the motion's on the floor. If there's any further discussion,
With this motion that you're making, can we go ahead and add to that motion to just go ahead and allocate the balance of that to the George Fox program? Or where is this balance money that's not been allocated? Is it still going to hang out there with nothing ear tagged to it?
it would, but if George Fox wants to come back and say, we would use the balance on X, Y, and Z, then we can consider.
Do they have to come back and say that? Because it's already there. We've just cut funding for that portion that they've said that they're going to spend it on.
Well, they did
So
ask,
today, can we allocate everything right now?
well, they did ask for additional allocation, but that was going to be for furniture. And that was sort of the sticking point, was like, it's not built yet. Do we want to hold back on that? So I want to make sure that that $200,000 or whatever's left wouldn't go for that, because I think that might be a bit premature.
See, and I thought they rescinded that before 2 weeks ago, that they reverted back to their original offer of it wasn't going to go towards furniture.
Do you remember that piece, Joya? I know what you're talking about. I know that they said, never mind, we didn't mean that.
Right.
But I
Yes,
want to make
that's what I'm
sure
talking
we're
about, yeah.
we're clear on where, and I wouldn't have a problem with them coming back and saying, yeah, we're not going to do furniture with this. This is what we're going to do is,
Instead.
and spend it on the, initially, because they talked about hiring a site design and
Right.
all of that.
Right. So I think the confusion might have come up with the fact that there had been changes to the contract that they had made. And then we brought the contract back to them and said, we can't do that. And so they came back and said, okay, whatever you want in the contract is fine with us.
Right.
So I think that's what you might be thinking. The board considered only giving them the 500,000 to cover those two first, A and B, and not covering part C, which was the furniture and fixtures. And so that was the board decision, if I am correct.
Mhm. So then, in other words, if we were to do that today, then that would automatically constitute Part C, which was the furniture that we said, let's put a pause on. So that if
Correct.
they did come before us and say, look, we're not spending this on furniture, we are going to be allocating this towards the preliminary pieces that we funded initially, then I would be okay with that. But the way it stands now and what they asked for, we don't have that. So I don't have a problem with, looking at that.
Can you arrange that to have them
I will reach
whenever it
out.
fits our
Mhm.
schedule next week or so we can get this done?
Yeah, we probably just also need to amend the contract to reflect the additional amounts that would be going. Because the previous award was just for those first two. If you're adding additional funding for that same piece, we'd want to have, memorialize that in an amendment to the contract.
Oh,
If that
okay.
same money is being added to those same phases, it would just, acknowledge that additional amount. Or if
Same
it's a
contract
separate
revised.
phase.
Yeah.
Same contract, just amended to reflect the additional funding.
So
Okay.
we'd need to do that anyway.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is you'd like me to reach out to George Fox and ask them to come back with a proposal for the remaining, what is it, 209?
Not necessarily if we
Mhm.
just amend the contract, if
Okay.
they're okay with it and send
Okay.
it to them prior that says, we're going to be allocating this money to those first two elements, or does it have to be a whole new?
I don't know enough about whether or not George Fox needs additional funding for those first two elements or how that money.
I think that would have to take form as some type of an amendment or even
It
a
would.
separate contract with the additional, because just remember, there was the proposal, the board approved the proposal, we went into contract negotiations, the contract came back before the board, you approved a lesser amount to fund certain elements, so that element was left out, and so whether that's and a check's already been written to George Fox for the amount that was approved under the contract. So I think whether it comes back as an amendment or it's a completely separate contract for this additional phase, that.
Yeah, it would
that
just
would
need to
the
be
next step.
clarified what this additional funding was meant to. pay
Correct.
for.
Right.
I'll reach out to George Fox
Thank you.
and have a oh, of course, absolutely. And have a conversation with them about this and see where they are.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we
Great.
can move on from there.
Okay.
I'd
Okay,
be okay with that.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. I have another ask, not that we wouldn't do it anyway, but we do what we can to advocate for them, for the state funds that are supposedly coming out.
For infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
And they're well aware of
They-
that. They're
they're-
pretty looped into the new,
Mhm.
the new money that's coming.
yeah, they're very much aware of that. We've had conversations about that.
Okay, great.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, Troya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Joanna.
it.
Oh, of course.
And thank you. Thank you both.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. If there's no further discussion, I will call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time and investment into helping us work through and answer questions
Yeah.
too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, so that brings us to, let's see, we have no public hearings today, so that brings us to announcements.
While we're talking about kids, I want to talk about the event we had for foster families at the Heritage Center. And we were able to, with the folks from Reach Northwest, which is a retention and recruitment support. Shirley Turner has done a wonderful job. We had families there, one couple who had 10 babies through their home in the last year. and in their possession right now, they have 3 babies, a 12-day-old, a 22-month-old, and a 6-month-old, and they're on track to adopt the 22-month-old. There's an awful lot of babies in the system right now that we haven't seen in a while. So we're always looking for people who would be willing to be foster providers. And so anyway, we continue to work. This is through the Family Wellbeing Council. We have a foster parent subsection. So we've got a group that's working on that. And I'm going to be reaching out to our new 4-H coordinator at Extension, and also to anybody else I can to beat that drum. And plus the fairgrounds, Commissioner?
Yes. We had a great fairgrounds tour, mainly geared towards around emergency management and how we would change or improve upon based on the firsthand experience that we had back in 2020 for the wildfires. It was very informational. Everybody had a lot to add to it as we toured the fairgrounds, and I'm glad to see the involvement from the different state agencies. OAM was there, Brian Young was there, Arthur from Business Oregon was there, our own Joya was there from our own economic department. Both commissioners were there. Appreciate that very much. The one thing that I didn't, as we're kind of going around with that tour, that didn't really trigger with me that I probably should have brought up, and I'm going to do it now, because it's not 100% fair related, but emergency management wise, something that's very important, and that's going to be our communication system, our emergency communication system. So that's everything that needs to be on the radar for that. But it was a great tour.
Thank
I
you.
hope you guys enjoyed it.
We did.
I always love being.
It's
up
great
there,
weather
so,
too.
Yeah,
It was great.
got a little bit of a suntan.
I still have, let me update real quick on Parkway while it's.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Kind of the same issues, different day. I'm waiting for an email back from from Lindsay Baker at ODOT to try to see if I can get some more information on this project labor agreement that keeps going back and forth from DOJ to somewhere. I don't know where it's going. That's the information I'm trying to get, but it's hung up. We're now pushed out to May 30th. We're going to go out for advertising for phase 2A, and June for bids. We still have a little bit more wiggle room, but we definitely are coming down, and that window is narrowing. And they're gonna, basically a June bid date would open us up for winter work. And then we need two paving seasons or 2 summers to then finish that project. So it is coming right down the wire. Parkway Committee was definitely fired up this morning, knowing that this keeps getting kicked down the road, and it's all goes back to this project labor agreement, which has an off-ramp. We don't have to have this if somebody can pull the plug on it and get away from it, at least for this project, and go ahead and go out for bid. So
Who is that?
it has
somebody?
off-ramps, and we haven't taken them yet, but it's getting really close.
Is that the state that has to do that? To step in?
ODOT, I think, pulls the
ODOT?
plug on the PLA. Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
And then it had something to do with that community workforce agreement also. Anyway, it's not a huge mess, but it's definitely something that needs to stay on our radar. And I'll keep you posted on that as I get emails from ODOT and see if I can do a little bit more digging on it.
Man,
that's all I
That's
got.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Whole summer of construction opportunity
Yep.
gone.
Oh, no, I do have one more. Joint Transportation Committee. So they're doing their road show this summer, and pretty much the whole Willamette region was left off. So, I mean, obviously the biggest project that we can go tour would be the bypass 2A, 2B area, and nothing. So do whatever you can to light up your state reps and your senators and be like, hey, it's not too late. The schedule's not like concreted in, but it is there, and we are not on it. It's everywhere around us, but not our region, and it's quite ridiculous.
That's because they have plans for outside of our region.
Mhm.
I'll get to
Well,
that later.
Okay. Anyway, now I'm done.
I just want to give a shout out to Willamette Valley Medical Center today. They celebrated their 120th anniversary. Unfortunately, we couldn't be there. It was this morning during meetings, but we did send them a cute little video. Hopefully they got it. But just, thank them for everything they've done over the past over a century in our community, exceptional medical care and service to our community members. So thank you very much. We're sorry to miss it. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. I will adjourn the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for May 16th, 2020.